Hello and welcome to my spring recommendations and TBR video. Okay, before I get started on today's video, I just wanted to jump in here really quickly and let you know that I am going to try doing a read-along for May, and I'm calling it May Flowers Read-Along. I picked up this Rosamund Pilcher book in a little free library, and the flowers just kind of inspired me to have a read-along where anyone who wants to join just finds a book with flowers on the cover and reads it and shares about it. So I will be posting in the community tab here on YouTube. I'll be posting on Instagram about it, and we can figure out a way that you guys can share the books that you have read that have flowers on the cover that you have really enjoyed or maybe haven't enjoyed. I am going to share 4 books that I have already read that I would recommend reading during the spring season just because of their vibe and their plot. And so I'm going to go ahead and dive into that. So I would recommend for L.M. Montgomery to read Jane of Lantern Hill. This is the story of Jane, who lives with her mother. Her parents are separated, and she lives in kind of this dreary old house, and she's got some strict family members, and she gets a letter in April, which is one of the reasons why I think it's a perfect spring read, that invites her to go and stay with her father, who lives in Prince Edward Island, and she's being invited to stay for the summer. And so it's about her journey there, it's about her experience there, it's about her relationship developing with her father as well as her mother, and it's just such a brightening of her life, which again is one of the reasons why I think it's such a perfect spring book, because she goes from this dreary, drab, dark life to this outdoor, warm, and a lot of internal growth period. Thread of Dreams by Emily Barnett is published by Owl's Nest Publisher, who so very kindly sent me an ARC to review. In this sci-fi category, we follow Nova, who is somebody who is the harvester of dream threads. And so she is from her planet, which is far from Earth, is able to then transport herself into human dreams. And she just plucks little parts of the dreams that really shouldn't impact someone if they don't remember that part of their dream. One day, pretty early in the book, she enters into Arlo's dream. Arlo is a human on Earth, and he's able to see her and speak with her, which has not happened before. And through her friendship that she builds with him, through her relationship with her sister and her sister's fiance, they uncover a huge plot on Nova's planet with regard to the rules that they've been following, with regard to the loss of Nova's parents. And one of the reasons why I would recommend this as a spring read is because it also really is about living in darkness, and then through a lot of turmoil and perseverance and uncovering things, there is a brightening in their lives. And so I just really love the way that we go from darkness and fear to bravery and light. And it's a pretty beautiful ending as well. I'm a happily ever after ending kind of girl, and this delivers on that. Wolf Children by Mamoru Hosoda, with the art from You, is also a really beautiful spring story in my opinion. One of the reasons is the cover just reminds me of spring, but also within this story there is a huge rainstorm that really impacts the characters. It's a formative storm, and to me rainstorms are very much a part of spring for where we live. So in this story we follow a mother who falls in love with another boy when she is at uni, and unfortunately he does not make it into much further than developing this relationship with her. They end up having children. She discovers that he is part wolf, and so her children actually are also part wolf. But he does end up not making it, so there is that trauma. For a trigger warning is partner loss. And she becomes a single mother and she raises them, and all the difficulties of being a single mother, but also raising two little ones who are part wolf. And it's just an endearing story about coming of age and sort of accepting your family members' decisions. And it's just a beautiful story with some beautiful artwork. This is also an anime movie that you can find as well. Spindle's End by Robin McKinley is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. In this, we follow Briar Rose, who is the girl that needs to be taken away from the palace and kept away from Spindle so she doesn't prick her finger. She is brought to a rural town by Catriona, who is a fairy. And this offers a lot of slice of life in a rural village kind of feel, but there is magic dripping throughout this tale. Everything has magic. The animals have some magical elements to them. There's just a lot of abilities that people have to harness and access the magic in this area. I love this for a spring story, not only for those reasons, but the names of the characters. I think there's a peony. There's names of characters that are flower names. There's, again, a lot of magic in it. It just feels very spring to me. So I would suggest this to go sit under a tree in a field and just dive into the Sleeping Beauty retelling. Okay, so now we're going to move into my TBR list. I have The Rosemary Tree by Elizabeth Goudge. Julie Whitmer at the Elizabeth Goudge Book Club that is on Instagram and Substack is doing this as a group buddy read, and I want to get in on that. And so I love this cover. It's just beautiful, and to me, it just looks so spring-like. I love it so much. I love these old vintage copies. And so I think in this we get your quintessential Goudge. We are following a John Wentworth, I think is his name, who is a middle-aged vicar, his wife, his children, and then again getting that slice of village life feel. We are following other people in their household. I think they have housekeepers and other people that are side characters that also we get to uncover parts of their life. There are children in this. There are prominent animals, just as within a lot of other Goudge's books. I'm just excited to dive into that whimsical feel that Goudge is so beloved for. Next is Mary Stewart's A Walk in Wolf Wood. Say that 3 times fast. A Tale of Fantasy and Magic. So I have read another of Mary Stewart's middle grade, which is The Little Broomstick. It was turned into, I think, a Studio Ghibli of Mary and the Witch's Flower. I prefer the book to the movie for a variety of reasons. The beginning of it is phenomenal. I think the ending of it is where it lost me. Anyway, I wanted to read some more Mary Stewart, and so this is next up. I found it on Thrift Books, so I haven't seen a lot about this particular story, but I do think it's middle grade. We've got enchanted castles. It's a very slim novel, and again, just so beautiful and just screams spring to me. So I'm excited to take this literally into the woods and sit down and read it some afternoon. A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin is preparatory reading for Jane Austen July. I have had this on my list and I wanted to read it to see if it was a book that I could recommend for that period of time. This is set in the 1800s, and we follow a young lady named Kitty who she and her sisters have found themselves in the misfortune of being in poverty. So she really feels the pressure, I think she's the oldest, to secure some fortune for her sisters. And yet really kind of, I think there's a play acting here of trying not to act like that's what she's doing, that kind of being subtle about it. I am looking forward to reading this to see if this would be a good recommendation for July. The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods is set in Dublin. I think that this is following 3 characters. It says it's Opaline, Martha, and Henry. They somehow get tangled up with a vanishing bookshop. I picked this up on a recent trip to the library because of the cover and how beautiful it is. And it's full of this magical realism where they are uncovering secrets on the shelves within the books. It just really seemed so compelling that I grabbed it. And I will need to read it this month, or I have to return it back to the library. So I want to make sure that I prioritize that one too. In Calabria by Peter S. Beagle is also on my list. Again, it's a pretty slim book, and so I should be able to get through this. Peter Beagle wrote The Last Unicorn, which I have read. It's not the most fast-paced book, but I really think it fits right in there with the older classics where it has some plot development, but really it's about the character arc. And so I've come to kind of understand, I think, his writing. And so I would imagine this is very similar because we are also following a unicorn in this. And Peter S. Beagle has a book coming out in May, I think on the 14th, called I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons. This is apparently high fantasy, dragons, wizard, a damsel, maybe not in distress, but I'm excited about that. So I'm hoping to get to this and then possibly moving on to going from unicorns to dragons in Peter Beagle's world. Aria by Kazu Amano is a manga story about a girl who ends up on Mars, which is actually this Neo-Venezia, so a new Venice. And so she is actually a gondola driver in these canals on Mars. And again, I think the theme in most of these books for what I'm choosing for spring and what I would recommend for spring is the slice of life. And so my daughter actually read this and said there wasn't, it's very much not plot driven. It's more just about her life as a gondola driver on Mars. And so I'm just intrigued. I love the pacing that you can kind of experience in manga, and I'm always on the search for ones that are wholesome, and so I think this one will fit the ticket. Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner is the sequel to Godkiller, which I really enjoyed, and so I wanted to grab the second in what I think is a duology. This recently came out, and in this story, we follow this kind of ragtag crew. The main character is Kisen. She is a young lady who has a disability, but she is very skilled at killing gods. And so this land is plagued with mischievous gods that go in and ruin the lives of humans. Kisen hears about a girl, Inara, who has bonded with a lesser god. And when she goes to try to destroy the god, she realizes that they're bonded and that by destroying the god, she would have to destroy this young girl. And it is not something that she is willing to do. But they end up on a journey with the hopes that they can find a way to separate this god from this little girl. And along the way, Kisen is kind of starting to see that maybe all gods are not evil, but she really does have a lot of baggage because of the way that her family was killed in the beginning. And so she just really struggles with that. And so Godkiller is just this interesting journey of a character who really is determined to avenge what happened to her in her childhood as she grows into adulthood. And so I don't want to give too much away, but with Sunbringer, we are starting this book in sort of a different capacity based on what happens in Godkiller. So be sure that you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so that you can make sure that you are in on the Mayflower Read Along. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.